I'm going to tell you why the swim bait should be the bait you're throwing this time of year for big bass. So a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a live and I let a viewer choose a bait to throw. He wanted me to throw something like a glide bait or a swim bait. I let him look in the box and he chose the Berkley Coal Shad. This is the 8-inch version of the Berkley Coal Shad. He chose the 6-inch version, but in the same color. The water at this particular lake was medium heavy stain, I guess you would say. We had some big rains come through. The moon phase was changing from a full moon over towards a new moon. I'd been using another bait to catch fish, catching some nice fish with it, but I noticed the bite wasn't that predictable. Pre-spawn, early spawn stage in this particular body of water, water temperature around 57, 58 degrees and going up. And my first cast, 526 with the Berkley Coal Shad. Now, you got the Berkley Coal Shad, the mag draft, you got other different ones that work, but this I just so happens to have the Berkley Coal Shad in the boat. So I threw this bait against my better judgment, landed the 526 with it, and it finally started to come together in my mind. I'd been throwing this bait at the wrong time of the year, in the wrong conditions, and the wrong situations altogether, and I just didn't understand it quite that much. Over the next couple of weeks throwing this bait, that things change incrementally during the week with catching fish on this bait. I get to fish multiple days a week, and so I got to witness those incremental changes as they happened. Now, a lot of times we go out to the lake and we wonder why the fish change so drastically from day to day or from week to week, most of us, because we get to fish on weekends or whatever our availability is, right? But seeing those incremental changes during the week let me find the fish consistently throughout the week and find big fish consistently throughout the week. I noticed that they moved away from dock poles and were going towards seawalls, and they were going from seawalls outside the seawalls just a touch more. And then the big thing that I noticed when fishing with Farmer, who has a video on here as well, we were noticing the fish were more towards the bottom. So what we decided to do, and Farmer, he kind of clued me in on this, and I had one already set up in the boat, I just wasn't using it, and that was using the sacrificial holes at the bottom of the swim bait. The Berkley Coal Shad has 2 sacrificial holes down there, and I mean, any swim bait probably has an opportunity to put one in, but we just inserted a small nail weight in the belly of that swim bait, and it helps it get it down, and it also helps it swim a little more stable when you run it through the water column. As the week progressed, what we found was that slow ticking it across the bottom retrieves were getting bit consistently with big fish. I think Farmer caught 15 fish, lost 4, and none of them were under 3 pounds. The fish that I've caught over the last 2 weeks ranged anywhere from 2.5 pounds all the way up to 6 pounds. So the fish were absolutely destroying the Berkley Coal Shad for me and for the bait that he was using. Adding the nail weight later on in the week helped it get down to the bottom. We were moving that bait we were putting the bait in the fish areas. So, and what are those areas this time of the year? So dock poles started out being real good. If you got pole docks of any kind, skipping them under the pole docks helped out a lot. And then we noticed the seawalls were really good. But as the week progressed, we found that the fish were actually setting up on concrete boat ramps. This lake has small, narrow concrete boat ramps. Typically there's a dock close by, right? And we noticed that where that concrete dropped off, they were along the edge of that concrete boat ramp. And I've got a video here to show you. I was throwing it towards a boat slip, and there's actually a concrete boat ramp in that same spot. So it was in that fish's area. Now, why does the big swim bait work this time of the year, late pre-spawn, early spawn? Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, the fish are feeding up this time of the year, getting ready to spawn. So they're eating bigger bait. They're eating bigger bait fish. They're not going to spend, I mean, they'll eat anything that comes by. They're opportunistic feeders a lot of times anyway. But it's a good, it's a good size bait. So this is the 8-inch, but I use the 6-inch mainly. So the fish are eating bigger shad. Well, in my lake, they've got gizzard shad, and they've got some big gizzard shad in it. So obviously this is a no-brainer. I mean, yes, it's an albino color. The watercolor in my lake was a stained color, so I needed something that would stand out. I've got some of the gizzard shad colored stuff, but I thought this color would be an absolute, just be able to see in that particular watercolor we had on the lake. It was that, coffee color, a little bit lighter than coffee color stain to it. So we wanted that big boot tail that moved water, filled along their lateral line, get that attention. It was just moving. They could tell the bait was in the area. I'm reducing the area of the lake I'm fishing down to certain areas, and then I'm even making those areas even smaller. I'm putting something in the water that disturbs the water area. Now, the rod and the reel I use for this, I'm just getting into this, so the rod and the reel I was using was a Daiwa 7-foot medium heavy with a Daiwa 6 or 7:5 to 1 gear ratio reel on there. I had 20-pound Seaguar fluorocarbon. I did notice that some of the fish were inhaling this bait, and some of them were hitting it, and I was hooking them in the mouth. And, the outside of the mouth, or the lip of the mouth. Some of them had even flipped it around where they were getting on there on the outside. So, keep that in mind. Obviously, when you're dragging this bait along the bottom, make sure your hooks stay sharp. You may need to check your hooks from time to time, and it's not a bad idea to either have some replacement hooks or learn how to sharpen hooks to keep those things in tip-top shape, because there were several times I'm bringing this bait back to the boat and it's got bark, leaves, grassy stuff on the bottom. So if it's dragging through that stuff slowly but surely, these hooks are starting to wear down. Big swim baits this time of the year, you need to start throwing them. Get confidence in the pre-spawn and the spawn time of the year to get your confidence up in the bigger swim baits. Thanks for watching. See you next time.